this will be one of their smallest projects, so it would definitely be in their best interest to keep this one above board. And frankly, I think that's kind of why they're willing to do something like this, because they're doing multiple projects for TVA, or with the agreement of TVA around the valley that TVA serves.
Yeah. It's my understanding that they're pretty much the primary group that does these solar projects with other local power companies, and they also have a number of solar farms that are directly tied to TVA. So the TVA's solar generation, a lot of that is from Silicon Ranch. They own and maintain those properties.
And back to the, I asked him in the meeting last time about the maintenance. I mean, grass getting so high, there are some, it would intrude on their power generation if they let grass get too high, or the maintenance becomes too difficult, or frankly, if they have to deal with citizens around them that are complaining about it all the time. That's all things that will impede on them being able to continue to grow and go into other communities if they have bad references. So now, you told me about there's one reference you had talked to that had been in a couple of years now.
Yeah, I spoke with Bolivar's manager. They got their system online. It was 2 or 3 days right before those rolling blackouts hit, which was in the winter of 2022. And he had all good things to say about it. Now that's just one reference out of many, but that's the one I talked to.
And the last thing I'll say, just back to, in the event that they were to fail or the project didn't work, TVA as well as LES would have the ability to step in if it was beneficial, and it would be when it's a community situation to take over those operations in some event.
So if Silicon Ranch decided they wanted to sell this operation, in the contract it says that the local power company gets first, option to buy the property and buy the operation. Now, we're not currently set up to run anything like that, but we would have first option to buy it.
I think one of the biggest risks to me, though, in these contracts is if they get enough panel systems around the valley, the likelihood of them packaging those and selling them, I could see that being a business plan. Once they get them up and operational and get all the contracts in place and everything's set, and 10 years down the road, when they start seeing the end of the contract, they could try to sell them. But you're saying that would at least give us an option to act first.
We would have first dibs on it.
Which that to me is a big deal. And then also the fact that he said in the meeting that if it does fail in 30 years and they have to close it in a acceptable manner for, that leaves it like the ground like it was when they started.
The property will have to return to its original condition.
And again, nothing's for sure. Back to finances, that's the big thing. If they, like any 100-page contract, there's language in there that gives them outs in the event of bankruptcy and financial hardships and that type of thing, but there's no guarantees with anything. So to me, all we can do is look at the pros and cons of it, and frankly, they're making all the investment. There's not any dollars coming out of LES or the city of Lexington or the county or anybody. They've paid a lot of money for the dirt already. They're making a huge investment to bring the panels in, so it definitely is in their best interest to see it through, and we're getting a fixed rate for the power. So again, overall, looking at it, pros and cons, I do think there's enough there that it would be, it would be possibly, a blemish on us not to proceed, especially when we consider that we have a 20-year contract in place with TVA.
And I'm all for, I think extra power is great where you get it from, but what I am concerned about is the livestock, because we already have an ordinance that says no livestock. He says you can't make an exception to that. So if we make an exception to this, and I know it's not going to do this, heaven forbid, but most of us here can remember chicken barns. If somebody wants to put a chicken barn in the city, we've already made one exception, so what then? And is our animal control ready to equip to chase sheep?
Fair point.
No. So what are our options as far as finding out what their plan is?
The city has, through an ordinance, if they don't maintain their property, we can go on private property and clean it up and build lien or attach lien to the property or whatever. So if they don't keep it clean and we have to go in there and do it, we just, that way it's going. Now, as far as the sheep being there with a can of cans, it wouldn't make any difference. If you tell them no, they still got to keep it clean, or we would be able to go in there and do it ourselves and go around the ordinance.
That's a big benefit to annex it into the city.
But they may not want to do it if they can't put their sheep there. He says they
we're trying to make some good faith, efforts, but they have a big investment here, so if we have
I
some
agree.
minor
They didn't
provisions
give
like
any,
this.
they didn't give any options other than sheep that I heard.
But I'm saying if we don't give them options, I mean, they kind of puts it there for them. I do agree.
How much does it mean to the city to annex?
Well, dollar, I guess, and I don't want to, Tony, you help me on that. I'm more thinking of the maintenance.
Why we got to annex?
Well, you would assume you get some tax dollars, but also we can control the maintenance. And,
Yeah, then they'll control the appearance of the property.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they can put up whatever they want next
Yeah.
to the city without regulations.
Gives us a little more control over or a lot more control over the maintenance. If it's not the city, then the county has nothing in place that I'm aware of to control anything, so it would just be totally good faith then.
Might look into amending the ordinance and reducing the distance. I don't know how many people are affected by that ordinance, 1,000 feet. You can put 500.
You got probably at least 10 houses I drove by. You got the opposite side of the road. You got one house before and one house after the property line on the road frontage by itself. So, looks to me like there'd probably be 8 to 10 houses anyway that would be affected by the 1,000-foot rule from the border of the property. Now, if you made them push it back inward, it's how many acres that you'd think they'd have a little bit of cushion there to go inward if needed, and fence it off, obviously.
All's in y'all's court.
Is this something that can be tabled? We good?
You know what the date and the time on it?
They were trying to get contracts executed by August 1st. I can call him, reach out to him and see if he has an answer for me.
You got a number you can call now and reach out
I've got some.
about the ordinance that we have concerning the livestock and see what it is.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna call him and I can ask him about that.
Now, I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
So could we just pass that, come back to it?
We're gonna slide that to the side and go to number 5. Discuss and approve second reading of ordinance to adopt FY 2024-2025. It didn't show up on the agenda, but on the second reading, it's a public hearing. So comments go before the vote and not after the vote. Our ordinance says 5 minutes, so if anybody wants to speak, 5 minutes will all you'll get. Nobody will go twice. So you get one time, can't go back up and talk again, but you'll get a chance to speak. Before we start taking public comments, I've got a few things that I want to throw out because I know during our meetings and y'all coming and some of you calling me some things. I know Miss Gima, you called me one day and talked to me about how some of the employees had stopped coming in the business. And also you'd asked me about garbage pickup and dump. And I told you I didn't think that fast. I wasn't looking far enough back. So I did find in 2021, the first reading of this ordinance was June 7, 2021. And then the second reading was June 28, 2021. Section 4 in this ordinance was a dumpster service. Customers located in zoning classifications M1 and M2 may elect to opt out of curbside garbage collection upon providing proof of dumpster service. So the board at that time voted for M1 and M2. And I looked it up today, and the only 3 companies that, or the company that was opting out was Mr. Woolridge's company. So there's 3 on there, and that's the only, I told you I didn't think we'd change anything, but I just wasn't looking far enough back. So what they did, they fixed it where if they proved they had a dumpster, they could opt out of the garbage fee. And that was just, it wasn't for residential or anything like that. But I apologize.
So it's not for residential?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, ma'am. Back then, when they passed this, it was just M1 and M2 for manufacturing. You know, I don't know. I listened to the tape today, of that meeting, and I brought up transparency. When they brought that up, I said, you know, are we gonna be transparent in that? And, but, you know, you're welcome to come and ask for a open records request and listen to that meeting if you want to, and get the minutes of it as well. But it was just for manufacturing. Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, also, back during some of these discussions, I kept hearing, you know, you don't compare Lexington to anywhere else. And I kept hearing Milan on the front end a lot. Milan's tax rate is 1.23, but they have a school just like Lexington does. But they have a special tax, they can tax for their school. Their school tax is 1.45. So the city residents of Milan pay 2.68. So that's a whole lot more than what the city of Lexington is, and I know their population is 8,260. Ours is right at 8,000, so I just threw that out there because I heard it was brought up a lot. Also, I've been hearing a lot about trimming the fat. So I'm going to start reading a few minutes right here. January 23rd, 2023, a motion was made to allow Public Works Director Casey Kyle to move an operator to the street foreman position, eliminate a seasonal position, and add a clerk position in Public Works Department. That motion was made by Alderman Wildridge and seconded by Alderman Rhodes. On February 27th, 2023, Public Works Director Casey Kyle requested to fill a vacancy in the Public Works Department and restructure the organizational chart by not adding a second clerk position and moving the building inspector position under the street superintendent. That motion was made by Jack Johnson and seconded by Jimmy White. On 6/12/23, a motion was made to increase family plan insurance from 40 to 60% and add to the budget by Alderman Gabe Williams and seconded by Alderman Gordon Wildridge, and passed on a roll call vote. A motion was made to approve Public Works Assistant Director as long as it does not allow creating a new position, adding an additional employee, and you can promote within the department by Alderman Wildridge, seconded by Jack Johnson. It passed 6-1. 7th July 24, 2023. A motion was made to increase Beach River Heritage employee Diane McGuire's pay by $200 a month by Alderman Gordon Wildridge. On September 25th, 2023, a motion was made to approve the first reading of ordinance to amend Title 4, Chapter 7 of the Lexington Municipal Code relative to the municipal personnel and allow Lexington Police Department to utilize an 84-hour period instead of a standard 40-hour period by Alderman Tim Rhodes and seconded by Vice Mayor Sandra Wood. On October the 2nd, 2023, a motion was made to approve the second reading of ordinance to amend Title 4, Chapter 7 of the Lexington Municipal Code relative to municipal personnel and to allow Lexington Police Department to utilize an 84-hour period instead of the standard 40-hour period by Alderman Tim Rhodes and seconded by Jimmy White. On 7/25/2022, we're going to get into the fat right here. A motion was made to approve the second reading of an ordinance relative to the FY23 budget, general fund, solid waste funds, school funds, and other non-major funds, allowing the addition of 2 patrolmen, 1 dispatcher, 2 firefighters, 2 street department part-time positions being made full-time positions, 1 park laborer, 1 cemetery laborer, and an increase in pay for the city garage supervisor and fire inspector, as well as a supplement for firefighters that obtain additional EMR, EMT, and AEMT certifications, and allow capital outlay to be purchased by the first round of ARPA monies already received. Motion was made by Alderman Wildridge and seconded by Alderman Rhodes. On 10/24/22, a motion was made to approve hiring 3 positions at LES by Alderman Gordon Wildridge and seconded by Fred Ellis. On 5/31/22, a motion was made to add an accountant position for Lexington Utilities by Alderman Gordon Wildridge and seconded by Fred Ellis. On 3/28/2022, a motion was made to approve a new position at City Hall by Alderman Jack Johnson and seconded by Alderman Jimmy White and passed on a roll call vote. A motion was made to allow Public Works Director Robbie McCready to fill 2 vacancies in the Public Works Department, as well as fill additional 4 seasonal temporary positions by Alderman Gordon Wildridge and seconded by Jack Johnson. On 8/23/21, a motion was made to approve the second reading of the ordinance relative to amending the FY budget, increasing the compensation for elected officials. The mayor, $85,000, the alderman, $9,600. A motion made by Gordon Wildridge and seconded by Emmett Blankenship. A motion was made not to renew Animal Control Officer Brandon McPeak's contract and to add a full-time firefighter position to the Lexington Fire Department with duties to include animal control, as well as add $25 per call. Motion was made by Alderman Gordon Wildridge, seconded by Alderman Tim Rhodes. Also at that meeting, resident James Avell asked to address the board and applauded them for the way they conducted the city's business and transparency. And by the way, on that $85,000, that same year I asked the board, if I remember correctly, to move the mayor's to a part-time position and cut my pay, and they didn't want to do that.
And make a city manager.
No, city, not manager, but a city, not recorder, a city.
Well, I remember that.
It wasn't manager, but you're right. I should do that. I didn't ever say what the pay would be. Okay,
I'm sure it wouldn't be less.
it may not be. All right, 2/25/2020, a motion to approve 2 new positions, accountant, receivable, billing clerk, and public awareness clerk by Jay Williams and seconded by Tim Rhodes. 6/5/2018, interim public works director Robbie McCready requested permission to fill 2 open part-time positions. The motion to grant direct refusal request was made by Jack Johnson, seconded by Sandra Wood. 8/7/18, Public Works Director Robbie McCready addressed the board requesting authorization to hire a position for solid waste. Motion granting Director McCready request by Alderman Gordon Wildridge, seconded by Vice Mayor Sandra Wood. I'm almost done. Thank you for your patience, Steve. 4/3/2018, interim Public Works Director Robbie McCready requested permission to hire 1 part-time employee because mowing season would begin soon. A motion to grant Director McCready's request was made by Jack Johnson and seconded by Sandra Wood. And finally, on 6/7/16, Alderman Jack Johnson stated that he felt the fire department was too short-staffed to wait until mid-August to hire a new firefighter. Interim Fire Chief Roger Lofton stated that the shift schedule had been worked out through August and the hiring early that planned would cost approximately $3,000. A motion to hire a full-time firefighter by July 1/2016 to amend the budget as necessary to accommodate the position was made by Jack Johnson and seconded by Gordon Wildridge. My point to all that is, everybody keeps trimming the fat. The first 5 years that I was mayor, I never proposed a tax increase. In the last 2-3 years, I've warned y'all that you keep putting recurring costs in a budget. Keep putting it in there with no plan and no way to pay for it. My job as mayor, the charter says that I'm supposed to propose a budget. It's not my budget. It's your budget, the board, not mine, y'all's. I proposed a higher tax freeze to pay for all this additional stuff and everything that our department heads need to keep everything going. You can blame me for everything you want to, and that's fine. I'm just doing my job. And my job is trying to look after the city and take care of our people. And that's what my job is, and that's what I've been trying to do. All right? So we moved that out of the way. Also, I said something to the audience one night that the board had increased water rates. And they increased electric rates. Last year, 2 different times, on February the 27th, Alderman Wildridge made a motion to raise the garbage rates. And then in June of 12, Alderman Wildridge made a motion to raise it 61%. Your garbage bill started out that year at $15.50, and it went to $25. Nobody said nothing then. 61%.
I don't think I voted for that.
You may not have.
Take it out.
I didn't say you did.
It's not, you may not have, it's I did not.
I didn't say that you did.
You're using my term, that's why I'm asking about that.
Yep, I am.
You are.
But y'all helped put these positions
We
in.
did, and you know what?
So which ones are the fact? Tell me not one time.
Have
you
we
come-
asked to get rid of anybody? Have we?
You keep saying we got to trim it.
Trim it, right. Who? Let me finish.
Okay.
On, I think, May the 28th, not, or the week before, you said, you sent us a text and you said, does anybody have anything they want to put on the agenda? No. I said, I did. I texted you directly. I want to put a hiring freeze on there. You said, I'm gonna open that in my speech, or you can put it on the agenda, but I want to use it in my speech. Did you say that?
I did.
Did we get to the meeting, and did you open up with that? That we was gonna put a hiring freeze effective July 1st?
I think I did.
I think that you did. And so you did up until somebody requested, one was quitting, they wanted to hire 3. And you said that we had approved a water rate increase so they could do whatever they wanted to do. But when I was talked to about that water increase, it was because of infrastructure and the water going south, the problems we have every year with all that. So when I bring up this cut the fat, I never mentioned sending anybody home. I said, and it worked. Right then it worked. When you said it, it worked. When I said it, I got the normal 4 votes against it because, I don't know why, because you weren't here. But what I said was, if somebody quit, if somebody's fired, if somebody retires, if somebody, heaven forbid, dies, not to replace them right now with the city in the shape it's in. Move somebody lateral, move somebody up. But don't replace them right then. Trim the fat. That's my saying, so I'm responding to that, and I still feel the same way.
When the budget wasn't approved on the second reading, we had to start all
That
over.
wasn't even, we had not
I know.
even started talking about the budget when you said that.
All right, but that's when we didn't keep the hiring freeze in effect.
Because mine.
But I want to ask you something. You're the only alderman that never came and met with the department heads on the budget.
I came when they done the salary survey thing. It's just like, you want me to come and say, or just like the last week, we had one alderman said he wanted to talk to the department heads first. I talked to several of them here in that audience that night. Not one said they had anybody that wasn't essential. I wasn't asking for them to be cut. I'm just saying, you heard what I said. If they die, retire, quit, fired, don't replace them. You said we hired 17 people to do this mayor. And some of them come with that Biden money, which was a bad move. But just because you voted wrong in the past don't mean you can't vote right in the future. I agree with that. That's where I stand.
We have an ordinance in place that if you hire, you've got to come and ask permission to the board to start the process and to hire anyway. So they've got to come and ask you, you give them approval or don't. We have that in place.
Yeah, you got that in place, but that's takes you in a whole different scenario. But that's on everything. But if they did, I mean, it's obvious you're gonna hire them anyway.
Full vote that says no or not.
Well, I pulled that policy up. I didn't know it. I personally did not know it existed. And that's why I was not for or against it the other night. I just didn't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and agree to something, and it turns out to be a bad move.
But I'm talking about a freeze.
But what we should do, or one of the things that we should do, not not saying that a freeze is not a good idea, but what we should do initially is go by what's in black and white, what the policy says already, which is even if there
He
is
was
an,
wrong too.
even if there is an opening,
He was wrong too.
I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but right here, let me get back to it again. All appointments, hiring shall be made or authorized by the board in accordance with lawful provisions. That's not the one. But there is a policy in place that says, even if there's an opening that where somebody left, the department heads are supposed to come before the board, which is basically what you were saying. And whether you call it a hiring freeze or whether the board says no, it's the equivalent, sort of the same. If we say
No, it's not the same. No, it's not the same. I'm saying a hiring freeze unless they are an essential workers. Ones you cannot do without. If it's, and we do have jobs that are not essential. I know that there's nobody in here that's going to say that, but we do have jobs that's not essential. There are that could be filled by somebody else, moving a lateral move or moving up. It's not the same.
Why wouldn't we even think about hiring somebody outside if you got somebody inside that can move up? I thought that's what the whole thing was about. Somebody can be able to come from here to get up to here, whatever year.
That's
You're just saying,
That's promotion, that doesn't deal with promotions. Promotions come from within.
Well, what's it doing?
I'm saying
You're
we've hired
moving somebody
17
up
people
because
since
that salary is.
2017. We've hired 17 people since 2017, that's what he said. He said in the paper that the board did that and blah, blah. Hired 17 people. Now, you can't tell me that we don't have some extras. He said he warned us. Right? He warned us. But if that's so, then if you voted wrong in the past, don't mean you can't vote right in the future. And he said he warned us about 17 because it's reoccurring. So why do we keep adding? Why do we keep status quo? Why? If there's if somebody leaves for whatever reason, why do we feel the need to replace that person immediately when the city is in a mess? The first few years I went to the State of the City address too, and everything I heard was totally different. The city is in excellent condition. We are in great condition. That's what I heard. We're not right now. This is the worst we've ever been in. And so yeah, I believe in trimming the fat. I'm not calling for anybody to lose their job, and if anybody's been told that, they've been told to lie. Fact.
This is not the worst the city's been in.
Well, it is since I've been here.
Since you've been.
And it is since you've been here, Cody.
And
You sit over there and snicker, oh, you want snicker, but it's the worst since you've been here.
Whoa, let's don't do that.
I'm telling you.
Let's don't,
Listen,
I know.
I got a
let's
right to
don't-
talk just as much as anybody else.
Absolutely,
I'll get
but let's
this.
don't get heated and just get hatred.
Not on my side.
Mine either.
Well, back to the hire, we never voted on a hiring freeze. We talked about putting one in place in July 1, and we never passed a
Okay,
budget.
all right.
We never.
That's what
You
they
said, but you didn't say it wouldn't, that it was off. You never said it
It
was.
was never even got the call for
Yeah,
it.
July the 1st, I think, when.
It was, absolutely.
That's what, that's what was done, anyway. A lot of things in the house, anyway.
you know, back, I know you think it's just rhetoric or whatever, but the very thing that alleviates issues like this is to have clear and concise policies. I mean, some people believe in policy, some people don't. I do, but if you have clear and concise policies in place, it would have alleviated a lot of this. You know, does that fix the problem we have now? No, but at some point, I think we need to put, if you say, you can have it for automatic hiring freeze comes into play if X, Y, and Z comes about. Now, department heads should make this policy. That's something that we should come together and decide when is a hiring freeze necessary. And then write a policy that is on the books for the future. But the question is, how do we get past this today?
my statement is the city is in a mess. This whole tax increase is about one thing. It's not, I've heard storm drain damage, I've heard that, I don't know how many years, paving streets, all that. That needs to be done. I agree, that needs to be done. This whole tax increase is not about fixing the streets, doing the storm damage, because I've heard that so much. We all know what this is about. We all know.
Guys, I've tried to stay quiet, and all due respect, everybody in this room who spoke has a very valid point, okay? But back to pros and cons. I've been on this board for, this will be 7 years now, and every year we have had higher expenditures than we have revenues, okay? Every year, okay? Everybody hear me. So when some people said stay within your budget, our budget, since I've been on this board, has had included having more expenditures than revenues. We all went through COVID. If you think this is as bad as during COVID, y'all are, that's not even close. I mean, we had COVID time frames where we had a lot of uncertainties. And I on the board, and everybody on the board at that time agreed, this is not the time to raise expenses, okay, not taxes. So with that said, we have services that our community, we have one city, okay, one. There's nobody else to bail us out. And when we go generations and generations of not taking care of things, that's where you get where we're at. Now, what's happened in the recent past, and everybody in this room knows it, COVID has caused inflation with everything. Every type of job. I work at a bank. I mean, and I see people's salaries. Every type of salary has increased through COVID. Every one of them. I've not seen anything other than maybe a self-employed person. And I don't mean that bad, but that's just they're going to benefit or I guess not benefit from the current status. But with that said, people that work for a business that have benefits and get a salary or hourly wage, those have gone up. Every project that we do in this town, if you own rental houses, if you own anything, if it costs for repair and maintenance, everything has gone up. So our revenues have not went up from a tax base, and I think it's been 7 years now. I had that from me last meeting, but that's not reasonable when we've been forced on the inflation bubble, okay? We didn't cause it, I didn't cause it, nobody in this room caused it, but we can't just ignore it. So the choice is you either start reducing services, which is our lifeline for our future. So if you want your kids and grandkids to be able to live and grow up and have a house and maintain property values and do all that like we have all experienced, that's where I weigh on the pros and cons. Is this the best and only answer to raise taxes? I mean, the option is to start cutting things, but if you start seeing a dying community, that's what happens. It slowly goes, and that's what's kind of happened. So if we don't keep up with what the needs are, and frankly, we have needs that we've had in the past that we've already neglected. So once again, we put this off for quite a bit of time. And I want to hit on something the mayor said a minute ago. If anybody wants to pull the tax rates for the state of Tennessee, be sure you look at the county tax, the city tax, but also the special school system, district tax. Okay, a lot of communities have a school tax that we do not have. So if you want to get a real tax rate and rank us in the state, look at all three of those items. Okay, and you'll find that we're on the lower percentile. We're well below 50%. And you can look at multiple communities that are compared to us that are higher. Okay, so again, I don't want to sound like I'm the taxman. That's why we've been painted that we're just out here raising taxes. We don't care. That's not true. That is not true. But if all you look at is what's in front of your face, which is a higher tax rate, but you don't care about the services and the future of our city and the infrastructure. I mean, you got roads, water, gas, utilities, police, fire, everything goes into making a community. Okay, and we have a great one. We really do. Okay, and a big majority of our city appreciates those services, and I appreciate those services. So what's come across in the community from my standpoint is that we don't appreciate our employees and what all we have worked for. Okay, we're lucky to have department heads that care, and they're not one of them that are out here trying to take money from the taxpayers to line their pockets. I've heard that said. I mean, that's not fair. Anybody that knows most of us, okay, I mean, everybody on the board are good people. We want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. This is not a matter of me saying I know more than everybody else in here. That's not it. But with that said, we have to have some understanding of each other's positions. I have a complete understanding. Frankly, going through this process, I really have heard a lot of people's concerns, and I do get it. I really do get it. But with that said, you have to understand the other issues that are running a city that has only one game in town. We have one city, and that's going to last for my lifetime, my kids' lifetimes, my grandkids' lifetimes, and and so forth. And if it goes downward, if we have a trend of downward production where the city starts dying, I'm not gonna call towns names. I've heard examples of comparing us to certain towns that are somewhat close to here. And I'm not gonna do that in this room, but if you wanna compare it to some cities that have been dying for the last a lot of years and what they've lost and what they don't have that we have, I mean, I'm not going to go on board with that. I mean, that's not what we want. We don't want to gradually die. That's not what we're here for, okay? So with that said, there has to be some compromise? Yes. And there has to be some communication? Yes. But attacking people and telling people they don't know what they're doing or that their character's terrible or that they're stealing money or they're benefiting, lining their pockets, not one person on this board, I can say it from me. If anybody's here doing it for the money, I've missed something bad. I mean, I've really missed something bad because I don't think that's the case. That's sure not the case with myself. Mayor Griggs, he has been in our community as long as I've been here. Okay, his dad has been here as long as I can remember. I mean, way before my time. People like the Griggs are here for the right reasons. I mean, do they have all the answers? No. Do I have all the answers? No. But their heart is in the right place, and it's about culture. All these people that work for the city, how do you think they all feel right now? And I know some of you may say, well, I don't care, I just worry about my taxes. But with that said, if we want to continue to get good people now and in the future, we have to keep the culture in place. You have to show respect, okay? Does that mean they get everything they want? No, that's what we're here for. But when they recommend things and we as a board just actually basically say they don't know what they're doing and they're just saying it just to get money and, that's not fair. I mean, because I have been on here 7 years now, and I have been here in this community my whole entire life. And we have been fortunate to have good people with good hearts in leadership positions. And frankly, stuff like this is what pushes those type of people out. And that's the truth. So with that said, I'm going to get off my high horse. But again, I've tried to stay silent through this. But I mean, again, is there things to compromise? Yes. Is there any one person that has all the answers? No. But with that said, to attack and throw stones like I have heard over the last months, it's not fair. And I want everybody here in the room to hear that. I want people listening to hear that. People that have not said anything. Think about the good people that have been up here trying to do their best. We want to listen, but if all you do is tell us what you want, if we're making decisions based on individual wants, we can't run the city that way. And that's what I've heard. And I'm going to leave it at that.
And you brought up COVID. You brought up COVID, and I believe that our sales tax revenue went up during COVID. But what did we do to cut the cost?
And we had to sacrifice so much during COVID to get through it.
What did we do to cut the cost? The sales tax revenue went up, actually went up. What did we do? We took that Biden money. Mistake. Big mistake. When we hired 9 people.
But when you say we hired 9 people, we replaced positions. And Cody, if you have those numbers, how many positions have we actually added? Okay, the total number of employees 6 years ago compared to the total number of employees today. It's not a matter, if you hired 17 people, if you replaced 12, that's not hiring 17 people, that's hiring 5 new positions is what I'm getting at. We had part-time positions that we let go and we hired new positions. We had SROs that through COVID we added because we had state money to pay for those. Those are new positions, but they were not funded with your tax dollars. Everybody in this room would agree we need SROs through the time we went through.
I'm saying that you tax these people.
We did not raise taxes any time. People's tax bills have not changed in 7 or 8%. I mean, back in, it's been 12 years since we've had a tax
No, you
increase.
had one last year.
Last year.
Last year.
I've said that many times.
Prior to last year.
Prior to last year, it's been how many? 12
Okay,
years.
so you had one last year.
One time.
And the last 2 years, we've got 15.6% raises. Is there anybody in the industry who's done that? Anybody in the industry?
You need to stop it. You're in a special,
I'm the mayor, not you.
you were in a special called meeting with an agenda that you have to follow, and we're way outside the agenda right now.
We're talking and discussing a public hearing. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Boone. You got 5 minutes.
No, I don't need to talk. I'm just trying to get you guys to get back in line with a special called meeting.
What we're doing is discussing where you can hear it, and then y'all can comment and tell us what we're right, wrong, or indifferent.
We have an agenda we're supposed to follow in a special called meeting.
Back to raises. During COVID,
All this stuff's being talked about, is what's been talked about the whole month, Mr. Bell.
So back to COVID, during that period, for 2 years, we had no raises. We went for, I think, at least was it 2 years or 1 year? I think 1 year we had no raises. The next year we had, somebody help me on that. Through COVID, we had, I think it was at least 1, if not 2 full years of no raises. So when we did the raise, the first one was to catch up a little bit from the previous years of not getting raises. So when you say 15% in 1 year, that was a.
I said 15.6 in 2 years.
Okay, in 2 years, so that was, a lot of that was to catch up though from cost of living that we did not give in the previous 2 years.
And I know we're not the county, but they haven't had a raise in 3 years right now. I had somebody tell me that it took them 13 years to get this 15.6.
But the point was.
What I'm saying is if you're going to tax somebody, this is really simple. If you're going to tax the taxpayer, give them something they can see. Pave their streets. Take care of the stormwater. Give them something that they can actually see for their tax dollars, which hasn't been done.
So, in this budget, $400,000, which is an extra $100,000 for paving, $70,000 to begin the process of stormwater. And this is money that, at least like stormwater, that has never been allocated before. $35,000 to shore up the east side of the cemetery that's washing away and to clear off new spots. And they typically do, from looking at historical budgets, 175 to stay in a rotation for police vehicles, is to cut that back to 120. There is some new money. You can't fix everything in 1 year. You know, you could cut out, take $100,000 from streets. You really don't show anything for the money that you're going to get. You could take out an extra $20,000 out of water, leave 50 in. You could take out 15 from the cemetery and leave 20 in. You could take out 60 from the police and leave 1. And you could probably drop that proposed tax increase down from 15 to 9 cents. But you don't fix anything. And it's...
That's what I'm saying. If you're going to tax, fix something.
So you saying put 100% of the 15 cents into infrastructure?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
We can talk about that.
All right, we'll get into that in the budget minute. All right, we're gonna open up public comment. Go ahead. All right, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
I think that call out several times for that thing to be the corporate. We got all this hiring and all this money and all this thing. Well, up to this year, the city's been doing pretty doggone good. They've been doing really good, to be honest about it. We've been putting money in everything like this. We put money in the playground. We put money in sidewalks. We put money in everything. Wherever grant comes up, we match that grant and do it. Okay? On several occasions, we voted for grants. We didn't even have the money for it. But we voted for it. We done it. We got praised. Somebody got praised for doing all these grants because it was good what the city needed. Okay? That money comes out of revenue. The thing about it is, this year's budget was only one thing that was put into it that made it go high, and that's raises. Right now, because of the insurance, okay? And this is what all the department heads come to this board and said. We got to take care of our employees, and we got to give them insurance, and we got to do these things. All right? We got to give them longevity pay. We got to give them Christmas bonuses. We got to do all these things. And this board has supported every bit of everything these department heads has come up here and asked for. We have done. We've done it. All right? So they say I made the motion. Yes, sir. I made the motion to spend money. I'm the only one who made a motion to raise taxes last year. I made that. You know what? It was a small increment. We had to have it. But you know what? This budget right here could be balanced real easy, real quick. That's how bad it is. But it got blown way out of proportion what happened. All right? We put industrial parks in. We put money in everything going. And when we asked, do we have the money? We would say, yes, we have the money. How much? Why? It's okay. Don't worry about it. We got the money. Money's there. We got it. That's what we got. I said, how much money? We never knew what the figure was. But that's what it's always said. So assuming we had the money, we done what we done. I don't keep the books. I trust what the bookkeeper tells me we can do and can't do. He tells me we have the money, then we can spend it. All right? We're going to raise the taxes because
we need to raise the taxes a little bit, and I concur with him, we need to. We should have been raising it 10 cents a little bit along and kept everything where it is right now. But to have a 50-cent tax increase or a 25-cent tax increase is unheard of, okay? It's unheard of. That's just the way it is. But what's happening is this whole thing is about giving these raises, and the whole conversation is being raise. And I don't like the word raise, because the thing about it is these people are getting benefits that's equal to $6.02 an hour above what they get paid. Nobody gets that kind of benefit above what they get, okay? Insurance is $3.50 per person per hour. When you think about all these things we're doing, we give them all this stuff, and then to come along behind that right now, if you do what they're asking for right now, the insurance is going up $120,000 this year, and the raise will be $193,000. That's $313,000 what's going to happen. And that 15 cents we're talking about to get up, it takes 12 cents just to cover that. 12 cents just to cover that's what it does. Okay? That's what it does. The first night, I told this audience, I told them, 21 cents will get you a raise, get where we need to be, have money in the balance, and everything be shaped. But no, that's not good enough. Raise it a little, do what we got to do, give everybody a raise, and move on. Now what we had to do is go for the whole ball of wax. We had to go for a large tax increase. And I said, that's not going to sit well. It's not good. We can balance the budget and do what we got to do. I'm proud of everything I've done in this city. Let me tell you something. I've been on this board for 11 years. I've done really good. I think they've been talking about the burning garbage and the rates on it. Let me tell you something. We inherited garbage that was in the pits. We was taking money out of the general fund to keep that sucker going. You was paying the taxes twice. You was paying the garbage pickup, and the garbage pickup is what you want. All we done was move that money where the garbage gets paid for from whoever picks the garbage up and what it does. Garbage has got to be spread out. And guess what? It's going to go up and up and up. What we're trying to do is pay off a $1.2 million loan to build that little transfer station out there was supposed to cost $400,000, which didn't cost $400,000, it cost $1.2. So we're paying that off. All right. Then at the same time as we had to close the landfill out here. Nobody knew we had to close the landfill. That was never put in the budget. So, you know, in absence of putting a budget before what you got to do has not been happening in a structured way. But what you do is you structure your way out of it. And I said all along, we can have small minimum tax increases. We can achieve all the goals we need to. We can pay. We can do stormwater drains and everything. Yes, I'm proud of what I've done. I don't back up one thing from what I've done. And I'm proud of what this board does all the time. Because what we did, we got off the rails when we tried to get too big a raises. We got off the rails is what we did. And quite honestly, we don't need a raise right now. We're fine. We're good because we're going to put $120,000 more in this budget just to cover the insurance these people are going to get that they got. And they've got great insurance. We got insurance that other people don't even have. So what I'm telling you is, yes, we can agree on this budget. Yes, we can get it done. Yes, we have a small tax increase. Everybody goes home happy. But if we don't do that, now we're going to point fingers and holler one up. I'm not pointing fingers at nobody. I love what I've done. I love working with these people. I hate the whole scenario that we have picked a discussion that nobody wants to agree on because it comes back that we got to have these raises. That's what everybody wants. Raise. That's all I'm talking about. I'm talking about. I'm like him. Let's talk about paving the streets and doing something else. That's what I want to do. If we get off of that and move on, we'll be okay. But we're not doing it. It's all about that. So you can blame me for all this list you want to, and I'll gladly accept it. I sure will. But let me tell you something. This city is in pretty doggone good shape. We're not financially in trouble right now. We can balance this budget here tonight with just a few simple moves, and we'll be good to go for next year, and that's how good we are. Next year will be a different story. That's what we're going to do. That's what everybody does. You live and let live. That's what I want to do. I mean, inflation has gone up. That's what it's done. Don't follow anything I'm saying. I'm just telling you the facts of what I'm telling you. Because what the facts is, incrementally, time to time, you have to have a small tax increase. There's no way around it. Now, let's get back to Miles. Miles got a special school district. They ain't got one little school down here going through the 8th grade. They got high schools and junior highs and everything, football program stuff that we ain't even come close to. But them people over there elected to have that. They voted. I live in Miles. They voted for that. They voted for that special school tax is what they voted for and they done. And guess what? They are better ahead of us than we are because they have a responsible budget. The mayor over is a personal friend of mine. I talked to him. I used to live over there. I know how it's all going. The thing about it is, They come together, they agree on something, that's what we should do too. He's got an industrial park, he goes out and develops, he gives the people the city services they want. They got the same thing we got, there ain't much difference in it, what it is. The thing is, we got a little bit heavier on some things, they have, I admit we have. And then some things, they're a little bit lighter than we are, that's just the way it is. But that's the way a city's run. But this budget right here is real close. It's really close to getting settled, get it done tonight, move on with it, and then revisit it next year. And that's the way I feel about this. I feel like it's where it is. What Gabe said, yeah, I made a small motion to raise a little tax last year. He voted against it because it wasn't enough. Okay? When you do, like 25, 30 cents at a time, that's not what you do. What you do is you small, incremental raises and taxes. I've been trying to get it done on this board for 3 or 4 years. Even when COVID was, I wanted to do it. And finally I made it, and they all voted for it. I wasn't on one, they all voted for it. It wasn't went in there and voted for it. That's why it is, because you had to have the money. He gave him we had the money. He also admitted it wasn't enough money. And it wasn't. But what was? We'll do it a little bit more next year and do it. But we don't pile on a bunch of huge raises on what we're trying to do. That's all I got to say about the whole thing.
Did we agree last year that we were going to have to raise it quite a bit more this
No,
year?
we did not agree to that.
And that's the problem. So if we could vote through a 3-year plan, I would be all for it. But you think next year...
This city don't have a plan for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. They've never had a plan.
Agreed.
They do not. And you got to sit down and get one. But can you get this group to agree on a 3-year plan? Can you?
No. So that's why we're split off. That's why last year was the first year we passed a tax raise after talking about it for 3 years. And then this year, we did a small one last year, and the majority of us agreed that we're going to have a larger one this year based on what we passed from an expenditure standpoint last year. Here we are this year talking about this, and if we do a minimal something below 25 to 30 cents, even if we put off raises this year, you think we're going to put off raises forever? So you have to get ahead of this. So we're going to be dealing with the same thing next year if we pass a minimal tax increase.
How do you know that?
Because inflation is going to happen.
How do you know that?
Going to have raises
Prove it to me.
in the future.
Prove it to me. Tell me what the inflation is going to be next year. Tell me right now what it's going to be. You do not know what inflation will be next year. You don't look at me 2% or 10%. You do not know.
The housing expense by itself should tell everybody. What's your cost of housing gone up in the last 3 years? That right there, that's the biggest one. Rent,
We don't buy houses. We don't buy houses.
I didn't say we did, but
We don't buy houses. Has that nothing to do with this? So what we're talking about has nothing to do about houses.
we're talking
What
about
it does
getting
is,
raises.
and what this has to do is operate in this city. Operate in this city.
Exactly.
We don't buy houses.
So to keep
We take care of the streets, we take care of the sewer, we take care of the water, and all that. We take care of the utilities, but we do not houses.
that takes people, that takes equipment, that takes third-party vendors, that takes everything. All of that is going to go up to keep all those services running.
This bunch right now has got some of the best equipment they ever had in their whole life. Every one of them have, bar none. Casey's got it, fire department's got it, they got ladder trucks, you know.
Fire department's not getting they need 2 trucks now that we're not going to put in the...
They don't need no fire truck.
So that's up to... Okay,
They
that's
don't need no fire truck. They got a fire truck right, they got 5 pumpers right now. Guess what? They did a good job with 5 pumpers, they putting out that blooming open.
So the point of this whole conversation is to see...
17 minutes.
17 minutes for dispatch. So there are different perspectives on this whole process. That's what I want everybody, that's what I'm talking about.
We've had enough perspective, but we're hearing things again. I'm tired of hearing things again. Let's go on. Let's get something done.
Let's set public out, we'll go right into it. All right, anybody from the public want to start? 5 minutes. Come on, Ms. Perry. Ms. Perry, state your name.
My name is Frida Perry,
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
and he's talking about, you work every day. You get a paycheck every day, every week. Every week you don't get a paycheck?
2 weeks, 2 months.
Well, 2 weeks. Well, we get paid 1 time a month. And what we got for Social Security this year is ridiculous. I live in South Town. The biggest majority of the people that live in there is senior citizens. We have worked our whole lives to get that little piece of land and that little house that we live in. When y'all keep on raising the taxes, these senior citizens are going to lose their house.
Can I ask you this in all due respect? Have you ever had a certain need? If you had an emergency, a police officer, streets, animal control, have you had services that you had a need to help?
No.
Okay.
They come to the they come drive by the house, and that's about it.
Do you feel if you had a need that somebody would help you?
I'm more than sure they would. But still and yet, no use of robbing the poor people to give more money to them. I went to my brother's the other evening, out here by the dollar store near the Green Thumb Nursery. They working out there. I don't know what they're doing. There were 7 men standing there watching a backhoe dig a hole. 7 men. I can prove it. My daughter was with me and my grandson. They were standing there talking and watching him dig the hole. Now, why does it take 7 hands to watch one backhoe dig a hole?
I don't know the context.
They weren't city employees.
Yeah, they was. The city trucks was sitting out there. There was 3 city trucks out there. Don't tell me I'm lying, because I seen it with my own eyes. I have went down the roads, and city employees standing, 2 or 3 of them gathered around with their foot on the shovel. I know y'all need to work. I know y'all, and y'all get good money for it. I've got a list of how much y'all make. And it's ridiculous. I make about $2,400 a year. And y'all making $60,000 and $70,000 a year. And you tell me that's right? That I'm going to lose my house and stuff because y'all want more money? What kind of insurance I have? I got Medicare. Because I worked my whole life, and that's what I got. I can't afford nothing else. So don't tell me that there wasn't people out there that work for the city. It just hurts me to think that senior citizens in Lexington is being did like they're doing. And yeah, I've been in bad shape before. And Jeff Griggs' daddy, so a lot of days, I did not have nothing to eat. And I'd go to him, and he would give me something. He'd give my kids groceries. Yeah, I have. But there's something else, one more thing too, talking about this park y'all gonna put up there by Moody's Trailer Park. I don't know why they want to park up there. I guess for another place for drug dealers to do their drug dealing. Down there at IGA Food, that old building there, they sit down there in a parking lot and deal in drugs every day. They ain't nothing done about it. When my family went to ask for a job for the city, they told him they couldn't hire him because he's got a felony. One of the police has got a felony too. How's he? He's working for the city. It used to be that if you worked in the city, for the city, you had to live in the city. Now they live all over West Tennessee. I mean, it's not fair. We need to get back, like Gordon said, need to get back to the basics of life. And because a lot of people is hurting. A lot of people, they get a paycheck every week, every 2 weeks. And that's good. But they need to think about the people that's worked their whole life and just struggling to get by. And I thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Appreciate it.
My name's Alderman Beecham. Honestly, I wasn't going to get up here and say anything, but just from what has been said here at this meeting. First of all, there should be, cost of living increases, and I totally understand that. And Cody, you're the man with the numbers. Can you, or do y'all know, has there ever been a time when it was asked of the taxpayers to come up with this kind of money for these kind of raises all at once in history of this town? Has that ever happened?
My understanding, not all the tax increases are going towards salaries.
But that's what the big problem is. Is that right, Gordon?
You already have it going for it. What you gotta understand is, you're just putting a budget on step raises incremental what it is. And what that means is when we vote for step raises, then what it is, we agree that the top out pay will go from here to here. That's what that is. Well, to fund that, the taxes gotta go up to housing funds to do it. And eventually, if it's not now, it'll go up to it again. So what we're trying to do is I've never been against giving somebody a cost of living raise. Matter of fact, when we done the raise after COVID, we done that because we knew they'd been behind. We knew that people was hurting, and we had to give that to them to get up to where it was. Now, did we have the money? Yes, we had the money at the time. We don't. We had the money. What we did, we took all that government money, and we bought all kind of vehicles for every department. We spent that money. That's what we did. But what we done, when we got through that, we don't need those vehicles now. We're fine. We're good on it. So what we're doing now is we need to work on infrastructure and stuff inside the city that we need to work on. And what it is, everybody's up to a pretty good level of pay. They're not getting beat on pay. And what we're saying is just do whatever amount of pay is and move it. But what was proposed is way more than higher than that. Okay?
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm not gonna call
I mean,
numbers.
it should be incremental, you know, if it's gotta go up, you
Yeah,
know,
but
so much a year or every other year or something, not to hit everybody all at once or something. And if that's the case, it's got to be done like that, then this board hadn't been doing their job over the last several years if we gotta go up that much at one time. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, you don't build a house and then see if you can afford it. First, you manage. I think that's what's lacking here. Thank
Y'all not done yet. Come on. Somebody will speak? Sure. Come on.
I got a question, Jim, that I'd like to ask everybody in here. I don't say how many can do it. How many of y'all could live without a cell phone, cable TV, air conditioning, and go back to the old days like it used to be? How many of y'all could do it? Raise a farm, put out a garden, and have to get out there and work in it like a dog just to put something on the table? That's what y'all need to think about, is cutting. Like Tim said last week, his idea, that was a good one. But the devil's on the playground, Tim, but you're trying, son, and I oppose you for that. But that's what needs to be done, is go back to living decent. Not this expensive stuff, all these fancy raises and fancy cars. That's going beyond your budget. Go back to the modern day. Just like Frida said, your daddy does the same thing for my mama when she was alive. He would tell her, he said, Miss Gertie, don't you go without no groceries. She'd go to him and he would take her home. He would bring stuff to her from the Church of Christ. And you know it as well as I do. That man was a living legend in this town. But everybody, you went to that man and asked him for something, you got it. And he worked hard. He started off with nothing and made something out of his life. But everybody needs to go back to the common days of life. Go back to living without it. See if you can make it. I know I'd like to. Sometimes I want to. I don't live in no big fine home, but I got a brick home. It's small, but it's mine. It's clean. But I could go back to living with just a box fan. Back in the day, we didn't even have to lock our doors. You go to town, from South Town. Roger, you remember that, going to school. We didn't lock our doors, had a window fan. Maybe one or two in a house. Slept on the floor with a quilt. How many of y'all could go back to doing that? Quit living this exaggerated, expensive life like y'all live in California because you're not in California. Trust me, I know. I lived in LA for 5 years. Couldn't none of y'all make it out there. Go back to living decent. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, can I have my last 2 minutes?
I will let you have your last minute. I'll get you next.
All right. What I was gonna say is, just talking about, managing and coming from nothing. I didn't have indoor plumbing until I was 14. And that was a house tractor. And it was a Cadillac to me and my dad. And I don't mean to offend anyone on this board, but I think there should be a stipulation aldermen and ladies. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but just so you know how it feels to have to manage. And if you don't make it, it's coming out of your own personal life that you're supporting your family with. And you can be good with numbers, you can do this, you can do that. But if you hadn't ran a business yourself and know that bottom line affects your everyday living personally, you don't know the feeling of how this affects people. You may think you do, but you don't. So, I mean, I know this is not going to be like this, but it should be a stipulation. To be an alderman, you should have had to have ran or managed a successful business and been totally responsible. Your head's in the shopping block all the time. That's all I'm saying.
I think you were doing something.
My name's Christy Jones, and what I'm going to say, I'm going to address more than you guys. I'm going to address the public in just a second, if that's okay. One thing I have seen through all of these meetings, I haven't really been very big in politics at all. One thing I definitely have not been big in is local politics. One thing that I've heard throughout time is that the mayor doesn't really have anything to do with the city, that, you know, the bigger decisions are passed down from the state, the cities are, and I'm learning that's not true. The most important elections that anybody can vote in, greater than the President of the United States, and everybody's willing to lose their families, their friends, and whoever, bickering over who's going to be the President of the United States, is who are you voting for your local offices. And I hope every single one of you are registered to vote and get out to vote. Because voting is where our voice is. It's not sitting in this room. It's at the election polls. And the local election should be the most packed. We shouldn't have somebody on a ticket with nobody running against them. You shouldn't have it. We need people out there willing to do what these guys are on the line doing. You can't sit here and scream and yell at them for what they're doing if nobody's willing to step up and run against them. You can't sit here and scream and yell and fuss about what these guys are doing if you're not willing to vote and make your voice heard, besides just sitting in a room, because they're not going to listen just in here. They're going to listen to the ballot. They're going to listen to the polls. And it's more important in here than in any national election, and everybody's already throwing out hate. I've heard more hate in the national elections than I've heard in my lifetime. And I don't want to see it here. I have watched in this whole thing, and I understand there is poverty. I get that. And so help me, we have got to do something to help these that are poor. And I thank God for people like Miles Roberts, who is stepping up to make sure that these people are getting help. Okay? I'm all for it. Okay? But on the flip side, you have to understand that each of these gentlemen and women up here on this board, what they have a right to have in their homes. They have a right to have a nice house. They have a right, just like I have a right to have a nice home, because I'm working for it and earning it. That's what I choose. And so have they. That's what they chose. And we've got to bridge somehow the government. We need a more transparent government for sure. I mean, we need more transparency. And I'm not going to say anything much about Jackson, but I will tell you this. The mayor's online regularly updating on the city. Instead of, this city hides. There is so much crime. There is so much debt in this city and county that is hidden. That's ridiculous. And maybe if people started realizing how much our officers are needed instead of hiding it, they'd support having the officers that we have. Okay? If you wanted to see it, look at the deaths in the prisons. Look at the death we had. Look at the fight that we had that pushed somebody in a coma in our prison system. Maybe if you let that out and say, hey guys, look, this is what's happening because we don't have enough COs. Maybe they will start going, oh my gosh, like you said, show us what we need. Show us what we're working for. Quit going, has anybody ever cared for you? Have you ever had to call anybody? It's not about that. What about the people who have had to call for somebody? You know what I'm saying? Be transparent. Quit trying to make us look better than we are. Quit trying to make this city look better than it is with fancy lights and nice sidewalks, and then go, we're in the worst shape we've ever been in. we're in that bad a shape, state it. Be transparent. If something's happened and there's an issue, state it. That's what we need more than anything. We need these people, your citizens who are voting, to be able to trust you to make decisions, and your mayor not have to sit up here and say, well, I've been warning y'all, and y'all keep ignoring it. If you're ignoring it and keeping on, then, Gabe, I don't want to hear the excuse, well, we've been doing it forever. You've been on the board long enough to vote against all this stuff that you're saying, well, I've been warning you. I've listened to every word you've said.
When our revenues have been under our expenditures for 7 straight years.
Then you should have been voting against it.
Voting against what?
Against any of these raises that he just rattled off that you seconded.
But we put off raising income because we got 2 weeks.
Okay,
years of
how
no
else are you going to
raises.
get, you're a banker. You're a banker. How do you generate income? How does Donna Ross generate income? By selling houses, correct?
No.
Yeah, Donna Ross does, by setting the mortgages. Mortgages, okay, from the houses, right? Right, okay. How does a city generate income outside of taxpayers? Bringing in businesses. Why do we have a completely empty, vacant, just about vacant lot over there where Goodwill is? You're worried about if sheep and grass are going to cause a problem out here at the solar farm. Have you seen the dump that is that place? Have you seen the potholes that they're not being held accountable for? Have you seen this crap hole that is becoming more and more vacant daily? Okay, but in all these years that you haven't had to do anything, why haven't you kept it up?
I don't know anything personally.
You said we have to keep it up.
Okay.
What?
Now, that said, we have to keep people in our city that know how to, okay, and also we have to have the means to do that.
But according to you, and according to him, like what he just said right here, show us. You've been on the board 7 years. Why haven't you addressed that issue?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Why haven't you addressed the issue? Like you said, you can't afford, y'all have not had the means to deal with the lot that is Goodwill. That Goodwill is in, that all of them are in, that the potholes, the horrible
I
situation.
didn't say we didn't have the money, I said there's a lot of issues like that.
Okay, so if you're seeing these issues, then why aren't you addressing those in the past 7 years that you have to raise taxes? Now all of a sudden you're saying we've got all these issues and we haven't done anything about them all this time. He says, let's see it. And I'm telling you, let's see it. Instead of this guy over here, when this lady got up here and talked, he sat over here, I've got it zoomed in on my camera, rolling his eyes, laughing, shaking his head, rolling his eyes at her. Y'all be nice. Gabe, one of the biggest things that's turned me off with your whole thing is your attitude in here towards everything. When everybody's talked, you've laughed, you've snickered. With me talking, you've laughed, you've snickered. You're not above me. You wipe your tail just the same way I do. You are not above me. You are not above anybody in this room. Have you earned the right to have the stuff you have? Absolutely.
We never spoke. How do you know me?
Absolutely. I can tell by your body language. I can tell by the way you snickering at me and talking to me.
Chris, they called me good time, so.
Okay? Think about them. Think about them and your attitude with us, especially with me.
Ed Ocean, 84 Countryside Drive, Lexington. This is the most transparent board meeting I've ever been to. I've enjoyed it. People have passion about what they believe in, and that's good to know. Because before it's just been, y'all kind of been talking back and forth to each other and everything, but now we're getting stuff out and we see what actually y'all are looking at to develop this budget, so we can understand a little bit better. I've enjoyed it myself. I agree with that lady on 2 things. One of them is that all of you out here, if you don't like what this board is doing, and you want to change, sometimes you have to change yourself. That means it takes 2 actions. You have to get out and vote, and you have to find somebody to run against them if they're going to run. I agree with her on that. She made a good point. Now, several of you have said how many years we went without a tax increase. Okay. Why
how did we go those years without a tax increase? If we know inflation is happening, if we know all this stuff is happening, why do we raise taxes all at once? Okay. Was there a tax increase last year? How much was it? 18%?
16, not percent.
Well, cents. Well, I mean, it's right at $1 right now, right? So,
What is a small
He's all
last
over
year?
right now.
It was 86 prepare people for this year that there would have to be a law.
okay.
That was the conversation.
It was 18 cents.
So can anybody tell me what it was last year?
It was 86 cents per 100, and it went up to 104, which is 18
So
cents.
that's 18 cents, okay. And we're proposing 15 this year, correct?
Right, the first reading is 15.
That is an average of 16.5%. Okay, if you invest, if your bank has $1,000 and you get 16.5% average each year, how long does it take that $1,000 to double?
Fair enough. How much is your house increased in the last 2 years? Percent. How much does a project cost to repair? I'm saying 16%. Inflation we're in, 16% over 2 years is not comparable.
I'm with you on that, but if, by my figures, if you get 16.5% a year, which goes with the rule of 72, our property taxes are gonna double in 4.5 years.
If you could agree to it every year, I'd agree, but keep in mind, we've been using our savings account money to balance the budget for the last 7 years prior to last year. Okay, so for us to get ahead of it, we have to, again, I'm just calling a spade a spade. We should have already been increasing 16 cents a year for 6-7 years, okay?
What if
But we
we
didn't.
increase property taxes 4% per year?
That's fair. If we could vote that through to have a stair step up for going forward, I would be for it. We cannot legally vote through taxes other than 1 year at a time.
But I mean, it could be 4% each year.
If you started
18 years for our property
But
taxes.
if inflation goes up more than 4, you only go up 4, you're not catching up, you're gonna be behind the 8 ball the whole time.
But we wouldn't be as far behind as we are now if we'd been doing that in the past. Right?
Agreed, totally agree.
So
Totally agree.
some of the responsibility is with y'all because we didn't have the tax increases earlier. I mean, one person said that they suggested 10% for the next 4 years, a couple of years ago, and it didn't go anywhere.
That was me, 2021, a dime for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
If you could do that in one vote for 4 years, you would be good, but you have to vote for that every year.
That's exactly right. But anyway, I've enjoyed the candid conversations that y'all had tonight, back and forth with the crowd and with each other.
Well, I appreciate you being, I wish this room was full every meeting we have. I do, I really wish that, because y'all have a right to be here, and I know Mr. Lavelle was upset with me a while ago, but that while ago got it started good for y'all to talk to, because that's what we're all in here about. Y'all have every right to be here. I appreciate you being here too, Mr. Ed.
And when y'all see the alderman and mayor out of town, engage in a conversation and see what's going on. Don't avoid them. Go up to them, talk to them, let them know. You know, for all they know, you didn't even care because you didn't vote. When you ran unopposed, you got 600.
And I think everybody should have an opponent. I agree with her. Nobody should run unopposed. I agree with that.
Last election, Jeff got 650 votes, something like that, 658. And nobody else ran against him, so that's all it took to get elected. But like I said, sometimes we have to be the change if we want change. We got to be willing to sit in that seat and do what they're doing. Anyway, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Ed. Last call.
I just have a question.
Got your name for the record.
April Morrison? I just have a question about the budgeting process. I've been to the county's meetings, and this is a little different. For the county meetings, I know they have a budget committee, but for here, I see one alderman with a budget, and I haven't seen everybody working with a budget. Is there a reason that only one? You all have one now? Okay. I just didn't know why everybody didn't have one before.
When I first got elected years ago, they had a budget committee, which was just 3 people. I didn't think that was fair. I think all 7 should be the budget committee.
Okay.
And some, I don't know if the county has a budget committee and some of the commissioners. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but to me, the whole board should be the budget committee.
And like when Gordon was talking about when they vote on things and they say that the numbers are there for them to vote on something, is there a way for the alderman to see numbers to know?
They come to the CFO and ask for numbers.
Okay, so they just go off of what is told from there? Okay, all right, that's all I wanted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I saw, yes, ma'am.
Sherry, mate. Okay, I just wanted to, I worked for West Tennessee Healthcare and retired from there. And you say you got about 8,000 people in this city.
79, it's almost like
That hospital employs over 7,000 people. And when their budget got in trouble, I don't know how y'all do your pension plan, but they quit matching ours for 2 years. And when they got back in shape, they reinstated it. Nobody fussed about it because we didn't pay their part. That was given to us. It's just an idea. I don't know how you do yours. But they're not going to run that hospital. They've never got tax money in their existence. Never. It was simple. They could continue to put their part in, or they could leave it alone. They simply didn't, the hospital didn't match. If you put in 2, they put in 1%. Instead of getting 3%, you got 2. But it was a lot of money. And it saved them a lot of money.
I'm sorry, I didn't say
anything, but getting back to the hospital statement, they quit matching, but you also lost staff. They have to hire traveling nurses at a much greater price because they lost staff.
Anybody else? I don't want to skip nobody. Sure. I know y'all worked off the budget that y'all had the last time. I got with Cody the other day. First reading, I've got the budget y'all pass on the first reading. I've got 3 that I just handed out for y'all to look at. I know, and I'm gonna bring it back up one more time, I know we've done the salary survey, and I know that's a sore subject for everybody, but that survey was given to all the utilities, and the only one that didn't get to was the general fund employees. And I know that they've been talked about and beat up on pretty bad. And our greatest asset are our employees. And I know y'all appreciate them. I know you do. And I know I appreciate them as well. I've laid out 3 proposals here. I've got a 15-cent, just like y'all's. I've got an 18 and I've got a 20. But on all three of them, it's full salary survey implementation, 2 patrol vehicles from the drug fund instead of general fund, $234,000 from paving out of the general fund, and take $166,000 from paving out of state street aid. And on the 20-cent one, it would be nothing out of the fund balance. But one thing I need to add, Casey, if you would come to the front, I need you to explain something to the board. No matter if what Casey's fixed to tell y'all, if it stays with the budget y'all propose or one of these, it's still a problem. And Casey, if I'm not mistaken, you come see me the other day and said you had electrical problems at Amos Park, correct?
Yes.
And you think it's gonna cost, what, $20,000?
It's electrical underground.
Explain to the board.
This supplies about half the ballpark out there. It's been in the ground 50 years. It's not in conduit. It's just deteriorated. So last week, about half the park was out of power for a couple of days. So, talking with Brad and the electric system, we can get the wire, the conduit, and start working on replacing some of this stuff. The worst part of it that's giving us trouble now is about $10,000, and then to redo the asphalt and to get it fixed this fall to get ready for spring is around $20,000. Just to give you an idea.
20 total or 30 total?
20.
And on the sheet that I gave y'all out, you would have to, I had putting that in mind, so you would have to add 20,000 to expenditures and then take 20,000 off the bottom line of the fund balance. So just that 70,000 is drainage, is what that was on there. But you got any more questions for Casey? No, I'll leave that down.
Did you have the 35,000 that we talked about for the cemetery? I didn't, going back through that, I did not see it.
It is not in this budget. I didn't include anything additional that wasn't covered in the first reading. So that's a good point for you. Now, we did have some money in the capital projects fund for the cemetery already.
That is in the budget. That is
10,500, I think. Just the
Full page.
I don't think it's in capital, we just aren't in ground, I think.
Well, on page 40, on the capital projects fund, there's 22,439 for the cemetery master plan. And then 35,000 for opening up additional sections.
So around 50,000, that is already in the budget.
Yes.
It is in this 12 million.
It is in the capital project budget, it's not the general fund.
So it's not paid for.
It will be paid for out of liquor tax.
Okay, okay.
And what about the museum?
What are you gonna do with it?
Save it.
That would be an increase to the budget if you go that route.
All right, the question about the museum, I talked to Justin Roach about that. Because the way I was looking at it was to ask the county, her salary was right at $20,000 a year, was to ask the county for $10,000, because it is a county museum versus a city museum, and I just don't think that just the city residents should have to pay the entire cost of it. So I said, if they give us 10, we'll put in 10, which covers 100% of her salary, or 99% of her salary. And since it's owned by the utilities, then the utilities would cover the infrastructure costs, electric, water, all those other costs. He let me know that the way they're set up, that cannot be done, am I correct?
Oh, that's right.
They can't they can't use their funds to pay for something that is not directly being used by the utilities. So now that puts the entire cost back in the city or potentially split with the county, which I think we have $10,000 in the budget that was initially going towards the salary. And what was used last year was $47,000 total cost for the museum. So we would have to add another $37,000 back into it, or add 13 and ask the county to split it 23-23.
I think total,
That would cover the total expense last year was 47.
37.
It was 37.
Yeah, at the end of the year, it's 37,000.
I have a question. I'm just throwing this out here. So the gas department, the utilities owns the museum, right? So they have an assistant up there that is paid through Southwest that doesn't cost the city or the county anything. So why couldn't that person that works through Southwest, that is paid through Southwest, why can't they do that part when tours come through? And then, and if that person can't be there or whatever, if they off that day, or maybe they can switch days up, and someone from the city can be there to assist that, or someone from the utility can do that. That way, that would cut that part-time out, and you would have this Southwest that's not costing the county or the city anything.
Who pays for the infrastructure of the building?
I thought
The
Justin,
utilities,
I thought Justin said if he put offices in, if he was using the
Yeah,
building,
he could do that.
he could take over the entire maintenance of the building, or did I misunderstand?
That's correct.
Do you have plans on that?
That's up to y'all. I think that was a whole plan, I think.
But you could keep the museum open, because I'm for keeping the museum, open, you know, I
That
don't have
would
any people come through or whatever.
48,000
But
off the city budget, all of his budget.
that would go to him, and then you could have the Southwest, the person that works there, like I said, it doesn't cost the city or the county anything. They pay that salary. I mean, that's just a suggestion. I mean, that's just a suggestion.
And so that would take the 10,000 out of our budget.
And all the maintenance.
And all the maintenance, which I think unknowns in the future.
Justin, how does that affect your budget since you have done a budget and you didn't plan for this expense?
I would just have to look at it. There's no immediate expenses.
Well,
Salaries are paid.
well, there's monthly expenses, water, gas, telephone. I think telephone is almost $600 a month.
And if you put offices in it, what are you gonna do with your articles that's in the museum?
Leave him in there. Leave him in there, couldn't you?
Yes, sir.
He
There's
could put
already-
offices in.
There's already two offices. There's the one that's being occupied now, and then there's one when you come in off the backside to the right. I know there's two. Oh, there used to be two, because the route officer, I believe, somebody used to be there. They still are.
No, I'm not talking. Huh?
I'm told.
I know, okay.
Are you upset at something I
No.
said?
All right, the first reading on the first budget, first reading is 15 cents. It highlights that budget, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, was the 3% salary adjustment utilizing current pay scale. I think it was 2 patrol cars, $70K for drainage, $179,000 coming out of fund balance, and leaving $400,000 in for paving. Is that what you got?
That is correct.
All right, but what I'm hearing though, I'm not hearing cemetery or music. Is that correct?
Well, in mine, I had the cemetery in, but if the cemetery can come out of the liquor tax, you know, doesn't matter where it comes from, it's just as long as money is allocated towards it. I mean, it's so much better if it doesn't come out of the budget, out of the general fund budget.
So we need to, we've got to pass a second reading. I mean, I talked to Comptroller's office again Friday, and they told me if the board didn't come to a conclusion not to recess the meeting and keep having the meetings till we come up with one. And we all know if we don't hit the August 31st deadline, I've told you all this before, then we can't issue debt. That would affect broadband, LES, y'all know that. Y'all understand that, so.
I'll make a motion, we stay with what we had on this right here, what he's read over.
Okay.
This budget right here,
15 cents.
15 cents, no inflation salary survey. And, you got a 3% raise in here, but on the item that says cut repair and maintenance bill, I think I ought to be as is, any basis, not put in there. And I think we ought to cut the 120,000 for patrol cars and run the museum. And
When you say fund the museum, fully funded.
I'm talking about, what I think goes in there is $33,000 what goes in. Now, I'm also gonna say this, I say pass it on this, but it can be worked out where he can do that. We take it out of the budget after, we'll amend it, take it out, he can implement what he wants to do.
Well, let me make sure he writes his stamp for you. Tell us one more time. Let's go. All right, so you said 15 cents.
15 cents.
All right, 3% salary like you said before?
Not that.
Okay. All right, take the 2 patrol cars out. All right.
Take two out.
All right. The
And I'd say
70
also take 100,000 out of paving too, because we're trying to get it where it's even. Right now, we're $197,000 over, so we take the 2 cars out, and that out will be close to
So
zero.
go from 400 to 300?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right,
And then
what about the 70K on the drainage?
Leave it in.
All right, now, I almost forgot. What about Casey's 20,000 for the park? The levy has to go in.
We can go in, because if we take out, 100,000 in payment, we can do it, because we're gonna be getting close to balancing the budget, because we're short $179,464. If you take out 2, it's 120, if you take out 100, that's 220,000. We put museum back in and adjust it, we put Casey's $20,000 in for the park out here.
So you don't take any out of fund balance?
It's gonna be a small
He'll have to
amount,
do some figuring.
it's a small amount, but it's less than 50,000.
Can you sit there and put that in? He'll sit there. Okay. I just want to make sure we got it.
And what about museum?
You said 30?
33.
He said put 33.
They should go to payroll, which cancels the museum and everything.
But I want you to read it back to be able to make sure
Okay.
you got the money for that veterans service.
So that would take it up to $119.
Be $1.19, whatever wrote in this, already implemented in the budget, he's already got in here the 119, 119 $2.99, $119 per 100 assets.
Let's bid it 300.
According to what he's got in there, what he's gonna send the top code, we're $179,464 without taking out unsigned balance. You cut out patrol cars, it's 120, you cut out 100 and paving, that's 220. take 220, take 179 from it. So what's $41,000, you put 33 in the museum, and it's in, and, but like I said, in case it's 20, but if they work something out in the museum and come out, and it's 20 in for electrical, we'd be almost in a balanced budget.
So it's a motion to keep the budget as is, 15-cent tax increase, 3% salary adjustments on the current top out. Removing the 2 patrol cars and removing $100,000 from paving, so it'd be a total of $300,000 for paving. And then adding in the $20,000 for the electrical repairs at Guy Amos, and then adding $33,000 for the museum.
But there's some contingents that if he comes up with ways to do it, we take it back out of the budget.
Are you moving patrol cars to the drug fund?
I was gonna say, if you,
If that,
in this,
that's a, yeah.
in this right here,
I mean, can we do that?
yes, if you look at the sheet they gave you, the patrol cars on here.
Okay. I'll say then put the 2 patrol cars in the drug fund.
And if you wanna think about it, you could take some money out of the state street aid and put it back in the paper if you wanted to.
Let's do that in state street.
I'm not for sure the whole total, but you could put 100 in, because I've had 166 in this.
You can put that $100,000 back into page.
Street aid?
Yes, because they've got 166 on this other.
It's on page 33.
33. I got a quick question while we're on this right here. How much money do we receive in gasoline tax from the state?
That's on page 33 also. And it's broke out per act. So you start with the Gas Act of 1989, the gas tax 2017, the 3-cent gas tax, and then the most recent was the Transportation Modernization Act.
But my question is, where is this 310 reflected in the total revenue?
That is the total revenue for State Street.
I know, but it's not in total, it's not in this budget right here then. It's not in this one, the one right here where we're getting it. It's in this one.
It's in the State Street aid on page 33.
I know, but is it in where the total revenue on this right here, is it in?
No, it's not in the general fund.
Okay, so it's not in the general fund, that's what I'm getting, as long as it's not in the general fund. Okay, good enough.
That's what I was saying.
And we can take that
I'm
money.
with you, I just want to be sure it was not in the general fund.
Gotcha.
And how can that money be used?
For street purposes, but it's a special revenue fund. All expenditures are heavily scrutinized.
So does paving cover it?
Yes.
I know I'm reading that asking about that, about the taxing on the gasoline is, and we're gonna go further and talk to the trustee about how much we get in, but it comes in different pockets. It's hard to understand what we're really getting. I know what this is saying here, but I'm just saying this. It looks to me like if the state legislature wanted to help us, they let us do an extra half-cent, and that would really, really help us out on getting our streets paved.
Well, I was at a meeting in West Tennessee with all the mayors, city, county, and commissioners. They came in. Of course, they gave additional state street aid, correct me if I'm wrong, this year to the counties. Well, I raised my hand in a meeting, and I asked the commissioner, I said, did y'all ever consider giving cities some extra state street aid money? And they said, well, we give it to the counties, and the counties is gonna, you know where I'm going with that.
But also, it also says the county's gotta give us a third of that money.
Right, and I raised my hand back up.
And they give it to them, according to what the state law, if they gotta give us a third of that money.
I raised my hand up, and I said, would you tell the county mayor to give us some money?
But here's the thing about it, is you gotta take it forward, because it plainly says that we get a third of that money. Like it says in the state law, if they give it to the county, we get a third of that money.
The city of Lexington are all surrounding cities, like Scottsdale and all those. Is that third?
Yeah, the third goes to the cities, what goes to the cities. I mean, it's done law, you can read it on the tax bank, Tennessee, and they code, because I've been digging on it, but I figured that one way would probably help us to get some of the street money done, or if we could entice them to say, well, I didn't know they'd give us some, but if they let us add a half cent, it would really make a lot of difference on what it is. And that way we'll be having, we're about that $400,000 every year out of limit, out of budget that the streets would run down. supposed to be there.
Cody will figure out, okay, read Gordon one more time, because I think what I've heard too is the patrol cars come out of the drug fund.
No, drug fund, street aid, $100,000 for the paint cuts.
Read that one more time, that way you know it right.
Motion to keep the budget as is, at a 15-cent tax increase and a 3% salary adjustment on top of the current top out, with the exceptions being 2 patrol cars coming out of the drug fund instead of the general fund, taking $100,000 of the paving from State Street Aid Fund instead of the general fund. So it'd be $300,000 of paving out of general fund, $100,000 paving out of State Street Aid, $20,000 added to the parks budget for make the electrical repairs, and then $33,000 being added to the museum.
On contingent, that if they work out a deal to put up there, then we put that 33,000 back in the general fund and work out a deal with the utilities.
How much does that leave coming out of the fund?
I got it right about $37,000.
Let's let him input it again. He'll talk in a second.
Showing $12,000 come out of fund balance.
I did have one question on page 22 of our budget. 23 for street lights. Street lights historically we've been spending right at 40,000, and it went down to 13. It's about line 247.
Part of that's being funded out of State Street Aid.
Okay. Page 23, 247. Historically, we've been right at 40, and it went down to 13.
Well, that's going out street aid.
Yes.
All right, so you'll take the 12 out of the unsigned line. And that'll leave our rainy day at 979,485. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So our rainy day will still be in that. Okay. All right, that's your motion. Second. I have a second. Any discussion?
I'll make sure I got this right. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Two things, you get 20 cents, you were taking nothing from the fund balance and implementing the salary survey. And that was zero. 15 cents, you were taking 132,000 from what you turned in from the fund balance. But implementing the salary survey and what we're still taking from the fund balance. Two problems I've got is you're not treating all the employees alike, and we're still taking something out of the fund balance. It needs to be zero coming out of the fund balance, whatever you need to do with it, because that's why you're in the trouble you are now, because you're taking out everything, no matter what, 10,000, 15,000, or 100,000. You got to stop taking it out of the rainy day fund and the fund balance.
Take 50 more out, pay them, put it in
$37,536 that the fund balance will increase. So a positive change.
But it still leaves 3%, not the employees receiving what the other employees, is that correct?
That's correct. And
Okay.
potentially opens us up to compensation discrimination.
Do what?
It potentially opens us up for compensation discrimination.
Explain that to me.
The EEOC says that anytime an employer sets compensation for jobs predominantly held, for example, women or African Americans, below that suggested by employers' job evaluation study, while the pay for jobs predominantly held by men or whites is consistent with the level suggested by the job evaluation study. We're going to have people in the same building making unequal rates of pay just because of which budget they're paid out of.
Then on top of that, what do we expect next year? So we've cut a laundry list of capital expenditures to get to this point and have this discussion. And then we're cutting out of paving, some, mind you. So what is the expectation of next year? So we're doing all this just to get the budget balanced, but we still have depleted savings for many years. And in today's world, having a savings account is a big deal. So at what point do we get, not only do we pay for what we need to pay for, but also we save a little bit of money for the true need of a rainy day fund, which is the unexpected, which we heard a $20,000 need tonight, that just pops up. So that's again, back to a plan. If we're talking about 15 cents this year, knowing we're going to raise it 15, 20 cents next year and 20 cents the following year, that's worth discussion from my standpoint. But just to say 15 cents with no kind of expectation for the future and acknowledgement for all that we're cutting out of this budget, not just salaries, but all that we're cutting out of this budget that are items that we need today that are going to cost more in the future because we're putting them on.
I'll get back to what you said. Are you telling me that an employee can complain to the EEOC that they're being discriminated against?
I would assume that they have a pretty good shot, especially since the board approved a salary survey that provided equal pay grades, and now the board is voting to give different rates of pay to the same pay grade.
We voted. If we had the money, it was never.
This was never guaranteed.
Yeah, it was never. It was if, and
we voted to implement.
If we had the money.
We voted to implement, and if we didn't have the money the next year, they would have to understand they wouldn't get the step.
That's right.
We didn't have the money.
That's what we voted.
We didn't have to do it. And what everybody needs to understand.
That's what we
right
voted
here,
on.
what everybody needs to understand right here, seriously, is that the ones working right here in the city that we're talking about will never be on the same pay grade with the electric system. So get over it. Because they generate money. Utilities generate money. You're taking all this from the taxpayer. It's never going to be the same. I know you want to be the same.
No.
That would be great.
No,
That would be great, but it's not
What
going
I'm
to be.
getting ready to say, in that case, then there's been an issue all along because the electric systems have the same pay rate. They've been paid differently for.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go, Fred. It's not.
No matter if someone challenges it or not.
We're going to do salary survey to set all this.
Salary survey, what?
For all positions.
Y'all decided to
But
do
the salary survey,
We're going off looking for other departments, not.
but the salary surveys that we got were completed by two different entities. The electric system, to my knowledge, did not use the same salary survey that the rest of the city did.
Yes.
Am I correct?
He got made what he wanted anyway.
Yeah.
So,
He didn't go off
so you're not comparing apples to apples. Because they use this salary survey, the city and utilities use this survey. So,
and you funded the utilities.
we funded the utilities. Yes, sir. We did.
And some of those rates that were increased, public
those rates that were increased also went to go for salaries, not all of it, but some of it did. So your water rate has gone up and it's helping to fund those. Nobody seems to be all upset about that. But then when you start to try to help the ones on the other side, everybody's against that. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna not say anything else. We've got this right here with 15 cents, 18 cents, and 20 cents. And it shows how you can implement that just like for everyone else, 15 cents, 18 cents, or 20 cents. But it looks like that it's gonna go the other way like it did the other night. And when you see the employees that give your time and your effort and you do a great job and you have been ridiculed by people on Facebook, you've been ridiculed by some on the board, and laughed at, especially the department heads when they were asked if they had non-essential employees. So from me personally, Sandra Wood as an alderman, I am sorry that you guys have had to go through that, and I am very sorry.
This lady says she's seen 7 workers standing out with 1 worker.
Have you ever thought about that the person is using the equipment, you've got other people that are having to wait till that person gets finished. It's just like when someone goes, you can smart all you want to.
Hold the paper down. Hold the paper down. Is that what you're telling me? Let me tell you something.
I can speak.
You can speak, and I can too, but you have used me for your political hit boy ever since.
Me?
Yes, ever since Jack Johnson left. You used to do Jack like this. I'm the new Jack. Well, bring it up.
I haven't said.
Bring it up.
I haven't said a word in here.
Bring it up.
I haven't said one.
Bring it on. You just had me a while ago for using hate speech.
No, I said let's don't have hatred. I said hatred.
I said, I looked at him and said, you get smart, and that's when you said.
I said let's don't have hatred.
Motion and a second. It didn't
Hey, I've got a motion and a second.
I'd like to ask Ken, does he feel like there's an issue here? We don't need to pass a budget if we're gonna get sued. I'd like to know before I put it on the internet whether there's anything to do with it or not. He says he doesn't know, but he can check into it.
Review those job descriptions.
I'm not comfortable with voting something that's gonna put us in a lawsuit.
Well, I've got a motion and a second.
I'm just saying,
I understand what you're
I'm
saying.
not gonna vote for something that's gonna put us in a lawsuit and cost us 10 times what we're talking about. We're talking about 4 or 5 cents, and if somebody filed a lawsuit and we're wrong, I just wanna know that we're right.
We can go into recess and come back tomorrow.
No.
Well,
You'll have to vote on it.
Okay.
Got a vote, I'm not rescinding mine, I'm gonna vote.
You recommend that you look into this or not?
Well, I can look into it, you can always change it.
Change the budget?
If you're gonna vote on it tonight. you can
Change
vote
the
on it.
rate is what you can change, you can't change the budget.
I'll still review it.
Everybody want to call for the vote? This is vote for the whole budget.
Call for a vote.
All right, I'll let somebody call for the vote. Y'all realize the vote for the whole budget? All right, call it up.
Fred Ellis.
Yes.
Roger Lofton.
No.
Tim Rhodes.
Yes.
Jimmy White.
Yes.
Gordon Wildridge.
Yes.
Gabe Williams. Sandra Wood.
Passes 4-3. Okay, we are adjourned.
Mayor, I've been looking at you.
That's right, go ahead, sorry. Pop in the head, hold on everybody, we're not done.
Spoke with Matt Brown, whenever I stepped out earlier. He did make a comment that they do have properties that they mow, they don't have livestock, so he said that they could provide mowing services, bush hogging, and they would do it 4 to 6 times a year during the mowing season, so spring through fall. So they do offer that.
Does that make y'all feel good? I mean, I'll have to get a motion.
Make a motion, please.
I'll second.
Yours was a motion. Second, all right, any discussion? Call it up.
Roger Lofton.
Yes.
Tim Rhodes.
Yes.
Jimmy White. Gordon Wildridge.
Yes.
Gabe Williams.
Williams.
Yes.
Sandra Woods. Fred Ellis.
I need a motion to adjourn. Have a second? Alderman.
Tim Rhodes.
Yes.
Jimmy White.
Yes.
Gordon Wildridge. Gabe Williams. Sandra Woods.